My name is Kweyakie Afi Blebo. I am a data scientist and I'm the co-founder and programs director of Because She Can. Beyond the work I do at Because She Can and also being a data scientist and machine learning engineer, I also sit on committees globally, especially diversity and inclusion committees, and also I'm a digital creator. I would say for my educational background, let's start from senior high school. Okay, so I read general science and my electives were chemistry, physics, biology, and elective mathematics. I absolutely love mathematics, and so that was it for me at the senior high school level. At the university level, I read a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology from the University of Ghana, where I focused primarily on, picking up programming fundamentals. I learned about databases. One thing I liked about the IT program at the University of Ghana was the fact that it was not just technical stuff. So I read programs like microeconomics, macroeconomics, and even entrepreneurship. I do think that it has really shaped my choices as an individual. It has shaped the work I do, because all of these courses I took, all the knowledge that I've been able to accumulate in school and outside of the school environment to have really helped me to find myself where I am today. Another thing I also like to emphasize is the fact that it is not just my educational background or my educational experiences. I've had to do a lot of self-teaching, self-learning, taking up online courses, taking up participating in coding boot camps, and that has really helped to make sure that I excel in my career, my primary career as a data scientist and machine learning engineer. My primary role at the moment is as a data scientist and machine learning engineer. I have contracted with startups globally. I've worked with startups in North America, Asia, and within Africa as well. My work involves being able to extract insights from data and ensure that my clients, organizations are able to make decisions from the insights I derive from data. I'll give you an example. This is for all the young girls that are watching and are wondering, what is she talking about? What is she saying? Think about it this way. If you are an online shopper, you like to buy from Amazon or gg.com here in Ghana, you realize that today you bought a pen. Tomorrow they told you that I'm recommending a book to you. That is the work I do. If because I recommended that you buy a book, you ended up buying the book, then my work here is done. It means I predicted correctly. So that is at a very basic level an example of the decisions that my work helps my clients and the organizations that I work with to be able to do. Beyond my technical work, I am also co-founder and programs director of Because She Can. Because She Can is an NGO that is ensuring that we increase the participation of African women in technology. We've impacted over 10,000 African women so far through mentorship, training programs, being able to visit schools through grassroots efforts, and also for women who find themselves in positions where they are not economically advantaged, we help them with resources like laptops and then internet access. One of the programs that I'm most proudest of is our annual virtual mentorship program, where we have brought together a community of over 200 mentors and mentees from all over the world to train African women in areas like data science, software engineering, UI, UX design, cybersecurity, and just to mention a few. Beyond this, I also contribute globally to the STEM and the AI community. I sit on the Diversity and Inclusion in Scientific Computing Committee of NAMFOCUS. That is a US-based organization that promotes open practices in scientific computing and open source technologies. So over here, as a DICS committee member, what I do is to ensure that I'm getting more women, putting in place initiatives and programs that ensure that underrepresented folks are well represented in open science and open source technology. So aside all of these, I'm also a digital creator on social media where I share my life as a woman in tech, the struggles that I deal with, the things I have to deal with on a daily basis. Another thing I also do and identified is the fact that we have very limited information that is relevant to the African context when it comes to starting a career in tech, being able to establish yourself and all of that. So I use my platform to educate people, share valuable resources, and then let other girls and women know that a career in tech is a possibility for them as well. I do think that one prevalent misconception is the fact that girls and women are actually not interested in STEM. I hear this all the time in my line of work because, I mean, you're advocating for women in tech, you want to see more women in STEM, and what if they are just not interested? And so that is why the gender gap exists in the first place, right? But this is something that I largely disagree with. The stats show it. There's just so much to debunk that's in the first place. What we should be asking ourselves is that, are we the ones actually steering women away from that interest in the first place? And it comes from so many sources. Ask yourself, why are you buying your son Legos, robots, things like that to assemble at home as toys? And you buy your daughter pots and pans. This is not a conversation about who cooking and cleaning, though I believe those are critical life survival skills for everybody to know about. But the point here is really simple. We should be able to understand that we are contributing largely to steering women away from having interest in these roles, because most girls and boys at the same age have very similar interests. But the community plays a role, the home plays a role, the religious bodies, our churches. What are you telling the girls to do? What roles are you assigning to the boys? All of these things are very important, because 47% of women that are graduating from African universities are graduating with STEM degrees. So the problem is not the fact that they are not interested, because we will not have this percentage. The point here is to be able to establish where the disconnect is and being able to see that there is a disconnect between the education and then the workplace, and how can we bridge that disconnect. Another very big misconception is the fact that women are not technically competent as men are. But I find that to be very laughable, because the first computer programmer at the Lovelace was a woman. And so who is to say she was not technically competent? She practically wrote the first computer program that has ever existed. Let's also consider the fact that there are women whose contributions have gone unnoticed. For example, Mileva Marriage, who was one of the women that Einstein worked with in his early career. But most of her contributions to physics and mathematics have not been recognized. I have always strongly believed that when it comes to the underrepresentation of women in STEM, the problem is more systemic than with the women themselves. So you find that most of the solutions that I'll talk about, and I keep preaching about whenever I find myself doing things like these, is solutions that actually attack the problem at the roots. First things first, I think that representation matters. We can hold all the training programs we want, but if you don't see a woman who looks like you actually telling you that you can do this, I have been here before, it will look like a myth to you. Because I grew up with seeing my teachers or IC teachers be men throughout my entire education. At the university, I had only seen 2 women in my faculty that were lecturers, right? So the situation here is that representation matters. And that is why I even accepted to do this documentary, simply because young girls be watching. They would see that there's been a woman who has been through the struggles they've been through, who used to be like them. I have also been in primary 3, I've been in JHS 3, I've been in senior high school, and that representation matters. Being able to give women such the voices to be able to let others know that I have done this and so you can do it. There is so much power in being able to see a woman who looks like you, talks like you, who has been able to, jump over all the hurdles and still be successful. Another thing is mindset rewiring. So over here, I'm talking the community. I'm talking our religious organizations. I'm talking our schools. I'm talking to our parents. This is the time for you to look at the things that you also do that contributes to not making your daughters want to actually pursue careers in STEM. I could pull statistics, but I have actually seen, because of the line of my work, that there are practically parents who discourage their daughters from pursuing STEM careers. This is difficult. This is something for men. Do this instead, do that instead. Oh, I don't think you should do medicine, go for nursing. And I mean, it's still STEM, and no problem at all to people that want to truly pursue nursing. My only challenge here is, if you are telling the girl child that she can't do this because she's a woman, that is where my problem is. If the girl child wants to be a nurse and it's up to her, great. But don't say to her that you can't do this and it's easier for you not to be an engineer, for you not to be an engineer, and it's easier to be a nurse. That is where my challenge is. So let's question ourselves as a people, as religious bodies. What tasks are we assigning to the girls when they come to church? What are we telling them to do when they come to the mosque? Are they sweeping? Are the boys doing electricals? Are we unconsciously making sure that they are removed from the STEM conversation? If you buy your son robots and you buy your daughter pots and pans, she's going to grow understanding that this is her role and she cannot be an engineer. So let's question ourselves. Now let's talk about the workplace. I think the workplace is a very important space, because if you are seeing more women graduate from school and then they are not able to actually work in STEM careers, then there's some form of a disconnect. Are you penalizing women for just being women? And I say this all the time when I'm at speaking engagements and people laugh. But it is not women's fault that they are the gender that was chosen to reproduce. Reproduction benefits humanity. It doesn't just benefit women. And so why should you be penalized? It's your company's retention policies. Are you making sure that when women leave for maternity leave and they are back, there's policies in place to ensure that they are reintegrated back into the company's work, making sure that they are able to be promoted, find themselves in rooms that are making critical decisions? Those are the things we need to be asking ourselves. I've seen so many companies trying so much with regards to these policies. I've seen some institutions have breastfeeding stations, for example, making sure that women are accommodated, and that's what we need to do. We can't. So that is why there's the conversation of this or that. It's like you need to either choose your career or motherhood, but that shouldn't be the case. And so if we are not ensuring that the women that we advocate so hard for to get into tech and then to STEM and go to school and pursue tech careers, become engineers, if the workplace is not conducive, then they will leave, right? So that is also another thing that we need to seriously consider. So in all of this, you notice that I've hardly mentioned what the girl needs to do or what we need to do to the girls, because I think we are doing so much work already. So many training programs out there, so many mentorship programs out there. But if we don't deal with the systemic issues that are at hand, we'll find that ourselves at the same place all the time. My one big advice is to actually know your stuff. Focus on building foundational knowledge. So for example, as a data scientist, I've really focused on being a good programmer. I know how to code in Python. I know languages like SQL, before even moving on to very complex things like frameworks that I have to use in my line of work. Focus on getting your fundamentals right. Most of the things that you have to deal with would have to do with your competence being called into question. People will wonder if you were a diversity hire. This is not a conversation about diversity hiring. I totally support it. But the point here is that I want you to be hired because you are good at your work. And so make sure you get your foundational skills right, build your competency, Do not let your competency be called into question ever. If you don't know something, admit you don't know and be willing to learn. That's the beautiful thing about not knowing something. You don't know it, you can learn it. There is a very thin line between imposter syndrome and actually not knowing. And it's so much wisdom in knowing when you actually don't know and when it's imposter syndrome. Figure that out, and I do think you would have a great career in the STEM industry. As a woman in STEM, biases and stereotypes are a no-brainer. You would have to deal with them at almost every step of the way. I've seen microaggressions like, so you're really a woman in STEM? Oh, so you really code? People wanting to know what languages you code in. You tell someone you can code in Python and automatically they want to quiz you on the spot, try to find out if you actually know what you are talking about. You would have to deal with that at every turn. Let me tell a story here. Very early on in my career, I would say 3 months into becoming an IT auditor with a major banking group, one thing I struggled with was my competence being called into question. I remember conducting an audit and then writing all my recommendations. And as an IT auditor, what I did was to recommend that some access be revoked for some parties, especially heads of departments, because we are talking about super administrative access that allows people to even override and delete logs in very critical systems. And this is the bank we are talking about here. And then in the first meeting to discuss the findings of my audits and my recommendations, I had these heads of department tell me point blank, take this out of your report. And this is quite an interesting moment because I could easily be emotional. I was just 3 months into this role. I was new to this, and these were heads of departments with so many years of experience. And I could visibly see myself being intimidated. It became quite interesting. It was lots of shouting, and that meeting had to end. But here's what I did that I think it's worth sharing. The fact that I knew my stuff. I've said this before, but knowing your stuff will save you, because I could be emotional, go toe to toe, they go low, I go lower, but then I realized that I was right. And so all I had to do was let them know that this is what the policy manual says about access. When you open that policy manual, it says that access is given on a need-to-know basis. And so unless you are able to explain to me as an IT auditor that this is what I do, my job role requires that I do A, B, C, and D. And because of that, I have super administrative access to this critical system. If you can't explain why you have that access to me, my recommendation is going to management. That access was revoked. External audits went fine. Everything was great. And so you need to learn to know your stuff, be able to show and prove your competence. And I think another important thing is being able to advocate for yourself, and not in a rude way, but you should learn how to communicate and advocate for yourself. It's so important. For many women, we are very afraid of speaking up for ourselves. You may want to have an ally, an older work colleague, a sponsor, a mentor that can help you, but at the end of the day, you need to be someone who stands their ground. People know that you are not to be toyed with, and they know that in the worst case scenario, you are going to be able to speak for yourself. One last thing I would say is that you need to learn how to choose and pick your battles wisely. Not every fight is worth fighting. You would always have to deal with bias and stereotypes, and you need to be able to pick and choose the ones you want to deal with, and surround yourself with like-minded women, other allies that remind you that you are not in this alone. I would like to say that confidence isn't something that you get overnight. It takes time. There's going to be days where you actually doubt yourself, and we need to be able to embrace that. That's the beauty of the duality of life. It is very possible to be a confident person and have moments where you're actually not feeling confident. And I think it's very important for me to say this so that you don't feel Like on days where you are not confident, it means you're not confident at all as a person, right? And for me, some ways that have really helped me is number one, making sure that I focus on progress and not perfection. I'm such a perfectionist, and so that was such a hard thing or a hard pill for me to swallow, that I had to focus on progress and not perfection. When I wanted to start content creation, for example, I didn't have a tripod stand, I hadn't built my home office setup, and I wasn't done with all of that. And I was thinking, I'm like, I need to get these things done, but that is not the truth. I started with where I was. Like, I just opened a TikTok account last year, and within a few weeks, I was over 2,000 followers, and I'm like, this is me even without that dream setup that I wanted. And so focusing on your progress and not perfection will take you very far. Even in your career, you are going to get started from somewhere. There is a day will come, if you're a programmer, you would see a line of code or a block of code you wrote some years ago, and you will laugh. You would imagine that, are you the one who wrote that code? But that code has contributed to becoming the programmer you are today. Another thing I also do is document my wins and my achievements. So if there is a day I'm ever feeling like, today is just one of those days where I'm feeling really bad about myself, I'm doubting myself, I refer to that document. I'm going to refer to the document, and it will tell me that, okay, 2025 in January, YDG interviewed you to share your story with other girls in the tech, who want to be in the STEM industry, right? That's such a great achievement. And so it is a very important thing to document your wins and your achievements. I also surround myself with people that push me, like-minded women, allies in the community, that if I'm feeling down, someone can tell me that, Kweyakie, you are doing an amazing job. And just that is enough for me. And this, over here, I would like to insert something especially for parents. I always say that if you wonder how I'm such a confident person, I always attribute it to my father. My father believes in me even more than I believe in myself. Like, I'd say that I feel I can't do this thing, and my father will be there to let me know that you can do it. I hated biology so much in school. I was terrible at it. It was like one of my worst subjects because I love math and physics. I remember a day to writing my final WASI biology paper. I called my dad. I was in boarding school. That I'm afraid because I don't like the subject, I hardly study it. And I knew, I was like, this is going to be a disaster. My dad drove over 2 hours, came to see me in school, brought me food, brought me drinks, just come and motivate me to tell me that you can do this. I passed that exam. So in as much as I'm talking about surrounding yourself with people that can motivate you, for parents, teachers, mind your language. Learn to say and speak positive things in the lives of your children, and then the students that you are teaching. Last thing is that I separate my feelings from facts. There are days where I feel like, this programming thing, I'm terrible at it. But then I go and look at my track record and I'm like, I wrote the code for this program. I may not be where I want to be, but then I'm not bad like that. So you need to learn how to separate your feelings from facts. I'd like to preface this by saying that I feel like work-life balance is a myth, at least to me. I don't think there's ever been a time where I have a 50-50% split between my work and then my personal life. What I like to say is, and what I actually practice, is learning how to prioritize and being able to give attention to what is a priority at this point in time. That means that sometimes my career may take the backseat. It means sometimes my personal life will suffer just a little bit. Time spent with family and friends will suffer just a little bit for some few months. And then some months you realize that I'm on a productivity streak, making sure that I'm speaking here, speaking there. Last year was something like that for me. I had like a speaking engagement at least twice every month. And it took a toll on me, I had to prioritize that because I was trying to build my personal brand. And so that was what was important at that moment. There's going to become a time where I am looking for a new role. I'm going to prioritize job searching. And job searching includes maybe I have to study or I have to learn a new technology. That is what is going to take the front seat in that time. Another thing that I also want to mention is when it comes to personal life, it's important for me to actually create time. I believe in creating time for things that are actually important to you. So at this point in time too, I have very few responsibilities. I need people that are listening to this to have a very realistic overview of what I'm talking about. I am not a married woman. I don't have a child. I don't have the same level of responsibility that a woman who is married with kids is going to have. And so I do have a lot more time on my hands to do certain things, right? And I like to mention that at this point, I like to say that I am bootstrapping. I'm doing so many things at the same time, and I make time for what's important. So for example, you catch me in the morning, I had a speaking engagement. In the afternoon, I quickly changed to meet my friends for brunch. I'm back home preparing for the next week. Almost everything is happening at once. But what I make sure to do is that we are prioritizing what's important to me in that given time. So that is what I would say. And make sure you don't feel guilty about portioning your time. Don't feel bad about the fact that maybe at this point in time your career is taking the back seat. Productivity, getting things done, all of this, I like to say it's not aesthetic. You can see it on social media. You can see someone do a very nice day in the life of a software engineer, day in the life of a data scientist, but most of these things are not how every day looks like for this person. Even for such people, if you see me create content about day in the life as a data scientist, you should know that it is an ideal day that I wish I would have every day, but it doesn't work that way. So try as much as possible to be realistic and give yourself grace. For me, I would always say that my first role model has been my father. My father has been someone that has pushed me, that has motivated me, and who has also inspired me to even pursue a career in STEM in the first place. My father is a mining engineer, and because of that, we largely had lots of mathematics, engineering books all over the place at home, and so it was kind of second nature. It didn't feel like you were striving to enter STEM. It was like you have the exposure, and then I had just the right motivation all the time. Like, you can do this. He kept pushing me, teaching me, and making sure that I excelled in this space. A woman that I loved watching growing up was Dr. Elsie Efa. And for me, I loved the National Math and Science Quiz. And so when I went to Achimota School, I was actually in the National Math and Science Quiz team in school. I was the vice president of the Mathematics and Science Club as well. And it's all because of this woman. Because when I watched the Math and Science Quiz, I was not just mesmerized by the way the contestants gave answers, but the fact that she herself actually knew she wasn't just a quiz mistress. She could explain their answers and when they got it wrong. And for me, that was it for me. I was like, I love this. I would want to get a PhD someday because of this woman. Another woman I would like to highlight is Miss Angela Chiromantenjimo. She has been another source of inspiration for me from afar. I've been watching her journey and following through. And the fact that she's one woman who has been able to work with industry giants like IBM and Microsoft, and now being able to launch her own tech company here in Ghana says a lot. And I've learned so much from her. And I would even want to mention that I got into one fully funded program that is the African German Young Leaders in Business that brought together over 40 leaders from Africa and Germany in 2023. And I simply saw that opportunity because she posted about it on her Twitter, and she was on the jury for that program. And so this is something I want to mention here. Sometimes your mentors don't come in the form of people that you are in close proximity to. just the fact that I followed her, being able to see the things that she posts, I was able to see the opportunity in the first place because I followed her. And then I applied and I got in. When I got in, I actually sent her an email and a message on LinkedIn, told her that, I got in, and if I find myself in a country that you are in one day, I would like to grab coffee. Like I've said before, we can hold all the training programs we want, but if mentorship is not in the picture, we are almost doing nothing, simply because mentorship makes sure that you don't repeat some mistakes. If I'm your mentor, I can easily tell you what to not do in your first year as a data scientist or as a data analyst. And so I think mentorship is so important because right now, knowledge is all over the place. I could easily point you to a resource that will teach you how to become a web developer in a matter of months. But who would guide you to tell you that do this, apply to these roles, work on these projects, do A, B, C, and D. This worked for me. This didn't work for me. That is what is important. And so mentorship is a very key thing for us. And especially as women, where you don't see people that look like you, seeing women that look like you actually mentor you gives you the chance to understand and know that you can also do this. I've mentioned the Because You Can annual virtual mentorship program. Applications open every year by second quarter, so you can apply and join the women. They always create amazing projects. I'm always inspired when I see their projects and they being able to land roles after this mentorship program. Beyond that, there are so many organizations in Ghana that are helping women in the STEM space. Because She Can is for tech, but there are other like YSM, that's Your Choice in Engineering Matters. They are here to help women choose exactly, and it's not even just women, but they focus also on women to help them choose exactly what field in engineering they are interested in, because there are so many areas in engineering. For in the tech, for the tech space, there's a lot. There's Women Tech Makers Accra, Pi Ladies, there's Because She Can, there's Developers in Vogue, there's Developer. There's so many organizations in the space. All you just need to do is to Google them. Okay, so all these orgs, they all run programs that are either mentorship inclined or training based. At the end of the day, you are going to be able to learn something. Where we sit now, AI is immersed in our lives, almost every aspect of our lives. Now you try to even go on WhatsApp, you are trying to send a text and there's AI there. If you want to, construct your text, it can help you out. You're on Instagram, it's doing the same thing for you. On Snapchat, you can actually communicate with a chatbot you can have a whole conversation with a chatbot on Snapchat. The point here is that AI is here to stay. It's immersed in our lives as a people, and now comes privacy concerns, ethical concerns. We are talking trust, we are talking fairness, we are talking bias. Are the models we are building responsible? Are these models ensuring that all the biases that we have already as a people are not being perpetuated or made even worse by these models? As we sit, AI is involved in hiring, criminal justice, healthcare. These are very critical systems, and for me, I think the future of AI looks like a lot of policy work. We are considering the fact that as AI is now in our lives as human beings, what can we do to ensure that it's a seamless interaction that doesn't make it a harmful tool for us? Because in as much as we know that technology is supposed to be helpful, make our lives and our work easier, we cannot forego the fact that it can also be harmful. And so AI is a new technology, it's still evolving, and for me, the future of AI looks like a lot of policy, a lot of ethical concerns, a lot of ensuring that it is not a tool that is going to only perpetuate our existing social biases. I've talked about issues like bias and fairness, for example. Imagine where we are trying to build technologies, okay, for everybody, and women are left out. That is quite concerning, because we can build all the models we want to be able to make sure that they are not being biased or they are unfair, but if the people that are actually building these technologies are not diverse as the technologies, we have a big problem. Okay, so if we don't have someone on the team who is going to say that because we are building a health tracker and I'm a woman, it comes into my mind that we need to include, a period tracker. It's very hard for a man to sit down and say, let's include a period tracker in the system you are building. And it's not even because they don't consider women, but I mean, they don't have periods. So how would you automatically think that we should think about, so that is what the future of looks for women. I would say that women should consider, women should consider taking advanced degrees in these areas. It doesn't matter if you have a STEM background. I've mentored and seen women who have no technical background be able to transition into tech seamlessly, into engineering, and so it is not impossible for you. The future is female. Women are going to be a big thing in the future, and so we need to all be part, as all hands on deck. And if you get the chance to take an online course, enroll in a university degree program that is going to advance your skills in any of these areas, you should absolutely take it. I like to be described as that woman who was so interested in ensuring that we have as many women in tech as possible. Not just women, particularly African women of all social classes, because the work I do at Because She Can is so intentional and intersectional that we go to remote areas. Women who are not financially buoyant enough are all involved in the work that I do. So in some years to come, I want to be remembered for that this was my contribution to the industry. For advice, I always touch on this, is to have audacity. It's one thing that I'll say here that will be funny to you, but you can hear something a man will be able to say to you and you wonder that how could this person just say this to me? It's because of audacity. I always say that when God was done creating all humans, it looks like he called all men aside and said, hey you, here's 10% audacity. Take this, take 10% audacity. Because that is how men move. It is not like that for women. Women wait to meet 100% of job descriptions before they apply. Men apply to jobs when they meet 60% of the requirements of the job. I need you to understand as a woman that if you apply for a role that you meet 100% of the requirements for, you are overqualified for that job. 2 years ago, before I got into the African German Young Leaders in Business program, I knew I wanted to get into leadership programs for that particular year. That was my focus for the year. And so I came across a few, and so I saw this one and I wanted to apply. When I wanted to apply, I saw people with PhDs, many years of experience in the nonprofit and social entrepreneurship space. When I say many years, I'm talking 10 years plus experience. I went through the previous successful cohorts, and it was the same. And I was like, is this space for me? At that time, I had just about 3 years experience, under my belt, and running Because She Can for about 3 years too. And I wondered, is this something that I can actually get in? Because they are picking only 40 from from Africa and then Germany. But then all I told myself was the worst that could happen is a no. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I applied. I was I just applied. Because I'm like, okay, they want two things. People that are, because that year's cohort was for digital technology. People that are doing things in that space. And I'm like, I qualify. I meet the eligibility criteria. I just don't have many years of experience, but then I think I bring a lot to the table and to the conversation. So I applied. And I was part of the 40 selected. And so I need us as women to have audacity, apply, go for the things that you think that you will not get. You will be surprised that you actually be able to, you belong in many rooms. Those rooms are waiting for you, and nobody will shut a door in your face.